Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Marketing Mondays. My name is Ira Bowman, and I'm excited to be here today on a special episode of Marketing Mondays. We are counting down the top social media platforms in 2023, but we're doing much more than that. In fact, I put out a 5-minute video that I think I'm going to play here in just a second because it does a great job, if I don't toot my own horn too loudly, but it does a pretty good job of explaining what the top platforms by number of users, monthly active users in marketing. My son's on here too, which is kind of cool. Confuses everybody because it's Ira Bowman and it's Ira Bowman. But that's Junior, and he was born on my birthday, if you don't know, so he has the same name. It's confusing a little bit sometimes, but if you see basketball stuff, it's most likely my son, and if it's anything other than basketball, it's usually me. Anyhow, and my daughter's on here now too. See, my kids are supposed to be doing schoolwork, but they're supporting their dad instead, so I can't get too mad at them. Anyways, all right, why are we doing this? Well, there's a few reasons why I want to do it. A lot of people, in fact, 77% to be exact, of companies out there are using social media to try to generate business. There are job seekers out there. They're trying to use social media to help increase their visibility to get a job. There are all kinds of people out there trying to use social media to do a variety of things to get their message out. But not all social media platforms are equal to the task. And depending on what your message is, you should probably use different platforms. And so today, in an hour or so, we're going to review all of that. We're going to review what the largest platforms are by volume, just overall numbers. I'm going to get deep into the weeds or the details, if you will, on who you can find on each of these platforms. And then I'm going to share some tips and some tricks, some strategies, if you will, that you can implement on any of them to help gain you some momentum. How do you use Pinterest, for example? How do you use TikTok? How do you use YouTube to your advantage? Well, we're going to talk about that. If you have any questions at all about social media, just like every week, put them in the comments. And while you're at it, as we're getting warmed up here, why don't you go ahead and let us know where you're watching from. If you missed me the last couple of weeks, I was trying a new time slot. I thought, sometimes we overthink things, and I thought, well, maybe 5 p.m. my time, 8 p.m. Eastern would be a better time to do the show. But turns out I was wrong. Why? Because I had very little people watching, and I'm used to a little bit of interaction on these shows anyway. So let me do this real quick. I got to stop my screen share and then reshare it. And the reason why, because I just remembered I forgot to share the sound. You have to click share sound on all these things. Oh, I had it actually. Okay. So it remembered. Cool. All right. Well, anyways, better safe than sorry, I think. And which one do I want? That's the one I want. Okay. So I'm going to share this. I'm going to play this video. Now, I have this on all the social media platforms, so you may have already seen it. But if you haven't seen it, I want to show it because, like I said, I did a pretty good job of breaking down the overall volumes of, what platform has the most. I did a countdown both ways. So I'm just going to, without further ado, I'm going to play this. It's 4.5 minutes long. But when we're done, you'll see that it'll answer a lot of the questions about, this topic, where they rank, at least. Here we go. Are you curious to know what are the top social media platforms of 2023 and how they perform? I was, so I did some research. Here's what I found. There are 4.9 billion people searching or utilizing social media each and every month. In fact, each of those users on average will visit 6 to 7 social media platforms per month. So I thought, well, let's rank the top 7. If the average person visits 6 to 7 social media platforms, which ones are they visiting? Okay, here we go. I'm going to count them down in reverse order. So coming in at number 7, a lot of people's favorite is LinkedIn. But LinkedIn only gets 310 million monthly active users per month. So it's the lowest of each that I'm going to discuss here today. And actually, only about 30% of those people are from the United States. Not quite 30%, actually. All right. Coming in at number 6, one of my favorites, and I don't understand why more people don't use it, it's Pinterest. Pinterest is a great resource for SEO. And anyways, I like it a lot. It comes in at just under 500 million monthly active users in the number 6 spot. Okay, the number 5 spot, we have X. You might still know it as Twitter. X comes in at 700 million monthly active users. All right. The rest of these are over 1 billion, which is really crazy numbers, but here we go. Number 4 is TikTok. Now, an interesting side note of TikTok. There are 1.2 billion monthly active users on TikTok, but they stay there on average the longest per day. They get more usage per visit than the other ones. So it's an interesting note. Number 3 is my personal favorite. It's Instagram. Instagram is a place I like to be. 2 billion other people per month join me. So there's on average 2 billion monthly active users on Instagram. Number 2, and gaining ground, YouTube. YouTube has 2.5 billion monthly active users. They've added over 500 million monthly active users this year. That's almost double what LinkedIn is getting every month. So the number 2 spot, they've increased their volume quite a bit. And I actually have a bold prediction. The number 1 spot has been the number 1 spot for a while, but I think next year, 2024, I think YouTube's going to take that top spot. They are growing so fast, and I see nothing to slow them down. I think it's actually going to continue to accelerate. So we'll see how we do, but my forecast for 2024, YouTube will become the number 1 spot. But the remaining champion, king of the jungle still for 2023 is Facebook. Facebook actually had a major accomplishment this year too. They climbed over the impressive 3 billion monthly active users. That's 10 times LinkedIn. Okay, so number 7, 300 million monthly active users. Number 1, 3 billion monthly active users. That is a lot of people. I mean, frankly, 300 million people is still a lot of people, right? So just to make this list, you're doing good, LinkedIn. Don't feel bad about yourself. But here we go. All right, just a recap from this time we'll go the king down to the jack, if you will, right? All right, we got Facebook number 1, 3 billion. YouTube number 2, 2.5 billion. We've got Instagram coming in at 2 billion. We've got TikTok coming in at 1.2 billion. Then we've got X coming in at 700 million. We've got Pinterest coming in at just under 500 million. And we've got LinkedIn at 310 million. Look, my name is Ira Bowman. Follow me for more interest. All right, enough of that. You don't need the commercial. Okay, so if that didn't just make your head explode, I threw a lot of math at you. I thought I would do it in the video just because I had some of the, the graphics and stuff in there too. And my brother from another mother, Brady, says he's using Pinterest and he's got 3,800 pins of food. That's a lot of food, brother. Anyways, I was having fun. Look, because I was playing a video, I was able to comment a little bit more. So thanks for playing along, those of you who are active in the comment section. Again, if you have a question about any of this, let's just recap it real fast. So again, most people are using social media to the tune of 4.9 billion people every month. I've actually seen numbers that are even closer to 5 billion. Depends on what numbers you trust. There's a lot of data out there. You always want to double check the date of the data. And of course, you have to understand that, some people are rounding up, rounding down. Like, for example, even in my figures, I rounded I rounded up for Pinterest. It's not quite 500 million. It's like 400 and something million, but it was closer to 500 than 450. So I went with the 500. And the same with X. I saw a number that was 666, and I was like, yeah, I can't put that up there. And then I saw another one that was a little bit more, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and call it 700 million. So those numbers are not exactly accurate. Now, there is an elephant in the room, and I want to just I like to do full disclosure as much as I can on things. So I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to be doing a lot of screen shares today, just in full disclosure. So if you're wanting to see more of this, you'll have to stick around to the end of the show. But here we go. The If you go onto Google and just put 2023 volume of monthly users by social media platform, you can double check all my math. This is live data, and this is just from October 27th, 2023, to satisfy that question of the win, so you can know it's really accurate, or it's, let me just say it this way, it's fresh content on numbers, right? It's not stale or old. Hang on a second. I wanted to expand this. There is a term here too. I use it all the time. It's called mouse. I don't know if y'all can read that. That seems really small. Let me just see if I make this bigger. Does that help? No, it doesn't. But let me see if I can zoom this thing. Let's make this bigger. There we go. All right. The most popular websites. Now, you may have noticed here that I did not put WhatsApp in my list, and I didn't put up Facebook Messenger either. So if you're wondering why, because like YouTube is not a search engine, WhatsApp to me is not social media. It is your mic is on. Yeah, no. Brady's laughing about the mic. If I turn my mic off, it also turns my computer sound off. It's really weird. This is not OBS, my friend. This is StreamYard, so I have some limitations. But anyways, all right. Well, what is a MAU? A MAU is a monthly active user. Again, there was some like WhatsApp and other messenger type apps I didn't include in the top 7 list. So technically, WhatsApp would be, as you can see here, number 2, which is impressive if you actually think about it, because Facebook and WhatsApp are owned by Meta, and so is Instagram. So technically, they have the top 3 if you look at it that way, but I didn't. So there you go. But this is what I wanted to show you more of. Here we go, 9 more rows. I wanted to expand this out. So this is this has everything I showed you. This was one of the lists. Now again, that's pretty small, so I'm going to make it bigger again. Bear with me for just a second, because I want you guys to be able to see all this stuff. Where's my zoom at? I don't know if I can zoom it any more than that. I lost my zoom option somehow. Let's see if I do this. Yeah, that works. Okay. So we have Facebook. We have Facebook at just over 3 billion. We have YouTube at 2.49 billion. I called that 2.5. WhatsApp, I took out of the list again because of the type, like WeChat. WeChat's a little bit more social, but it's not really social media. You don't go there to make posts and things like that. You go there to communicate. So any of the chat apps I took off. So YouTube 2.5, Instagram 2 billion, TikTok 1.2 billion. Took these out again. They're all just chat stuff. But here we go. X Twitter. This was the one that showed 666. The other one showed closer to 7. So I rounded up. And here's Pinterest 4.65. Again, I rounded up to 500. The only one that wasn't on here specifically was LinkedIn. So I did do this. How many people are using LinkedIn each month? That's where I got my 310 million from, just so you know. Okay, February 2023, last time they reported, we had 310 million. So there's some of the data that I used. Not all of the data, but some of it. Okay, and I've got a lot more data to show, but I just wanted to kind of clarify Why is it that some of them you might find, like WhatsApp, are not included in my numbers? I'm not trying to do anything underhanded. I'm just trying to use the ones that we consider social media platforms, not messenger apps. I consider messaging something different. There is a social component to it, of course. But for the most part, you want to make sure, in my analysis, you want to make sure that you're able to create a post somewhere and there's an algorithm that's determining what's showing you things and what isn't being shown. Not that I like algorithms per se, but it is a part of the social media experience. And to master social media, you really do have to get comfortable with learning how to do things that are algorithm friendly and learning to avoid things that the algorithms penalize. Why? Because at the end of the day, this is about visibility. You want to increase your visibility. Remember, at least in the business world and also in the job seeker world, you really are trying to get your message out to as many people as possible. The reason why you're making these posts auspiciously is because you want to be seen and heard. If you didn't want to be seen and heard, why the heck would you post it on a social media site? If it was a secret, that's where you would go to WhatsApp. That's where you would go to an email or like Facebook Messenger or something like that, where the message is just for a specific group, including, oh, what's the one? My brain's not working. Hang on just a second. Slack is also another one I didn't consider. Here's my buddy, Kenny. Kenny says, I savor the flavor ofteness. I just cannot help but like Kenny every single time I see one of his posts or comments in my post. It just makes me smile. The guy brings energy and it's infectious. It's good to be like Kenny. We need more people like Kenny in the world. So there you go. All right. But social media. Okay. So now you know the top 7 and you know that people are visiting 6 to 7 platforms a month. So it kind of gives you an idea of where you should start to generate posts if you're only using, let's say, LinkedIn. And I know a lot of you out there, the majority of my audience, frankly, watches on LinkedIn. So I love LinkedIn. I'm not trying to slam them, not at all. This is nothing bad against LinkedIn. It's really impressive to have 310 million monthly active users. But there are some things about LinkedIn that can be concerning for you as a business owner if if you're trying to get as many eyeballs as possible, especially inside the United States. This is where LinkedIn is a little weak. LinkedIn is great for global reach. Global reach, LinkedIn's great. Why? Because 70%, it's actually over 70% of people on LinkedIn are not from the United States. And I'm not saying that that makes them any better or worse. It's just a fact, right? The geolocation of where people are can make a difference, especially if you're doing local, small regional marketing from, let's say, Georgia or, Iowa or New York or California, wherever you happen to be, Florida, right? Wherever you are, if you only service certain neighborhoods or certain region, like county or state, tri-state, or your geofence is the whole continental United States or whatever, it does make a difference what social media platforms you should use. Another myth is that LinkedIn is the only business social media platform. I would disagree with that. I would say actually YouTube is the number one business social media platform. Why? Because almost every business I know creates and distributes video content on YouTube. In fact, 81% of American adults, that's 18 and up, will watch at least one video from YouTube every single month. That is actually the largest number of American adults that you can find anywhere on social media in a given month is YouTube. So if your goal is to reach as many American adults as possible and you're only using LinkedIn, I would tell you should definitely incorporate YouTube into the mix because you actually reach a lot more. Mathematically, about 90 million or so Americans are using LinkedIn every month. And 81% of American adults will hit you somewhere like 150 to 160 million American adults on YouTube. So the reach is just farther. But if you like demographics and statistics, You are gonna love this show. I'm about to pull up a bunch more. Oops, hang on. Bear with me. All right. So I need to back this thing back down just a little bit before I share it. And where am I going to get into? Oh, here we go. I have a bunch of stats for you. I mean, a bunch. I'm going to be pulling up Forbes first. I'm just going to be walking through some of these. So there's not necessarily rhyme or reason to the slide order. Yeah, this is another problem, right, Kenny? There are forced hiatuses from LinkedIn. Sometimes we do things and we don't see a problem with it, but LinkedIn doesn't like it, and you just have to be careful out there. And they can take your access away from LinkedIn, and they don't always explain why, which is unfortunate. But they just they tell you you're on timeout, and so Facebook I know does the same thing. It's not only LinkedIn, but it seems like LinkedIn is a little bit more uh, apt to remove your ability to use it, which is awful. Here's a good one for you. I'm going to go through and just read these highlights. Okay. In 2023, an estimated 4.9 billion people use social media around the world. It is huge, but it's growing. Okay. They expect it to be 5.85 billion users by 2027. I actually think that number is too low. And here's why. There is a whole lot of development going on right now in third world countries. And part of it is the infrastructure for Wi Fi and cell phone use and distribution of communication tools. And so, with 7 billion plus people on the planet, I think that I think we could actually see 5.85 billion social media users next year, because most people, I think it's like 91% of people who have access to the internet end up using social media. So as long as that number keeps increasing, the overall population of people having access to uh, the internet, you're gonna continue to see those numbers climb. Probably won't see it start to taper off really until 2030, and I think at that point the whole globe will have it, right? So then it's just a matter of what is what is the global population total. Yeah, Rick's made a good point. YouTube will do it too. Everybody will do it. YouTube will likely most do it because of two things. You're sharing something that is copyrighted. That's the number one reason you'll get a strike. So you're sharing copyrighted stuff, and or they consider you spam. Those are the two top two reasons YouTube will take you offline. But they're pretty good about communicating why they've done it and give you an opportunity to fix it. I do appreciate that about YouTube. There's warnings more than some of the other platforms. I don't want to necessarily yell at anybody today. But let's go through this real quick, okay? So here's some key stats. Social media app market in 2022, that was $49 billion in the app market last year. So it's a big business. It really is. This line right here is old. This data is from 2022, it looks like, but 2.9, they've got a typo here. That's 2.9 billion, not million, monthly active users. Whoever wrote this was a little bit sloppy, which always makes me nervous in relying on their data, but it's okay. I'm here to help you clean it up. Monthly active users by social media platform in millions. This is actually, again, incorrect. It's billions. We've got 2.9. This is last year's. Well, no, because this is this year's. They just have this number wrong. It's 3.03 billion, 2.5 billion. WhatsApp is a chat room, so we'll leave that alone. Instagram at 2 billion. TikTok, the number I saw was 1.2 billion. Again, they're saying 1 billion. Either way, that's a heck of a lot of people. All right. Facebook commands 53% of all social media visits in the United States. Again, they're not considering YouTube, obviously, in that, because YouTube gets 81%. So, again, you have to just take some of this with a grain of salt. or do more research to understand. But this is interesting right here. People in the US have an average of 7.1 social media profile accounts. In other words, they have a TikTok, a YouTube, they have an Instagram, they have a Twitter or an X, they have a Pinterest, right? They have all of these platforms, right? Now, here's an interesting one. The average person spends about 145 minutes on social media every day. That's just over 2 hours. Now, most people are not doing it in one fell swoop. You have to understand they're doing it, 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, 30 minutes at a time, right? They're not necessarily on it for 2 solid hours. The most engaging type of content is short form video. This is 100% true. In fact, this holds true pretty much on every platform. This holds true for social media content. This holds true for email campaigns. If you're not using video and you want a suggestion on how to increase your visibility and get a better response rate, definitely want to work on your short term videos and make sure you're using some type of video editor, whether that's inside the app, like some of them, like TikTok, for example, does a great job of giving you tools and ways to spruce up your videos so it's not just you and a selfie. But when you add in pop-up titles, a finishing video or graphic, just increase the overall editing quality of your videos. It can make a huge difference. And also do things that are interesting. And here's another tip since we're on tips at the moment. I'm working on right now for one of my clients frequently asked question video. So, why am I doing that? A lot of people think FAQs are boring and they stash them somewhere on their website and they never really address them on social media. But you have to think about what an FAQ really is. It's a FAQ, the definition is frequently asked questions. So, as a strategy, if you're not answering your frequently asked questions, what the heck are you doing? You're missing a golden opportunity to capture the attention of a lot of people because, by definition, it's frequent. You see what I mean? If it was an unfrequently asked question, then I would get it. Why talk about it? But if you want to capture attention, don't ignore the low hanging fruit. Low hanging fruit would be frequently asked questions in the form of short term video. So put them together. Okay. And I can show you examples of that. In fact, if you go back and watch last week, I believe I did that in spades. So just go back and find last week's episode on YouTube, or you can go to my website and find it there at bowmandigitalmedia.com, whichever is easier for you. But it is on my YouTube channel. It is on my website. So you can find it either way. I'm going to keep going with this. I do like this list. Some of the data I don't agree with, but I like the idea. Here's another one that's extremely important to understand. I shared this last week too. Over 60% of all people on the internet are using mobile devices. That's for their apps, that's for websites. They go into their browser and they surf the website and the apps via their phone. So make sure that your website is mobile friendly. In fact, I recommend you basically start over with your website, rebuild it from a mobile theme as opposed to making it an afterthought, make it the primary thought, and then go in and clean up what you need to in your what we call desktop view, as opposed to what most people have is a desktop view website that's been cleaned up a little bit to make it more mobile friendly. This is not going away. Mobile use of the internet is only going to continue to rise. Again, I foresee a future. I don't know if it'll be 2030. It probably won't be quite that soon, but there is a day coming where most people don't even own laptops or desktop computers anymore. They just are strictly either some type of tablet or mobile device. I really think that that's coming, and it's coming sooner rather than later. I also think that there will be glasses, like the Google smart glasses, that kind of thing, where people will just see it from, it'll be like a hologram. I think that's where it goes beyond the mobile. But I think the days of desktop computers are limited. That's why everything's going to the cloud, right? Have you noticed software as a service, everything's going to the cloud? I think that's just part of it. This number I completely disagree with. for the United States. They might be talking about globally here, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But this number, as far as I know, and according to Pew Research, the number is 81% of American adults use YouTube. Now, when you add the kids in, this might be a little bit lower, but I don't think it's that much lower. And here's why. Because most of these kids are consuming like TikTok and Twitch, and a lot of those videos are also posted on YouTube. So they're watching YouTube videos just in their, daily consumption. This is really interesting. 84% of people 18 to 29 are using at least one social media site. And frankly, a lot of those are using some of the platforms you might not think. Like, for example, I've heard this a million times. Uh, Facebook is dying. The kids don't use Facebook. That's just simply not true. I'm going to show you some stats to back this up in just a minute. But Facebook, don't get it twisted. Facebook is growing. Their number of monthly active users went from 2.9 billion to 3.03 billion. It's not a huge increase. It grew a lot slower than a lot of its competitors, but it's still growing. And kids are using it. I'm going to show you the specifics of that and from another website, another data source in just a moment. So Facebook can be used to reach pretty much every generation, from the youngest to the oldest. Now, is it the best channel to use? Not necessarily. Again, we're going to get into specifics of demographics in just a minute. I'm going to hit it really, really hard. I might lose some of you, frankly, with it, but I want you to have this information available if you need it. Okay. So let's keep going, because I like the way that they presented the information, even though I don't necessarily agree with all their numbers. So, who's using social media? Well, everybody is using it, right? Half of people 65 and older, 73% of people 50 to 64, 81% of people 30 to 49, which is where I fit, and 84% of 18 to 29. If you think about it, these folks grew up in a world where social media has always existed. They don't know a time without social media. And that number is just going to continue to climb. Like I said, I think there will be a day where pretty much everybody with a phone will have social media, because there are social medias like YouTube that they don't necessarily consider social media, but it is social media because you can make a post, you can comment, you can share, you can do all those things. That's a social media platform. All right. Here we go. I used this number earlier. 77% of businesses use social media to reach customers. That's kind of like a duh at this point, but makes me wonder what the other 23% are doing. Like, really? Why aren't you using social media to reach your clients? 90% of all people follow at least one brand on social media. I think most people do. I follow my own brand. If nothing else, I follow quite a few businesses in full disclosure, but there we go. Now, here's something interesting too. Is social media just a waste of time? No, it's a place of e-commerce. It's a place of business. 70%, 76% of social media users have purchased something that they saw on social media. I have. I've got stuff here on my desk even that I saw on social media and I bought it. So, influencer statistics, I'm going to go ahead and skip this stuff for now. Here's some trends. Be Real. If you haven't heard of Be Real, my daughter actually uses this one. I have not gotten on there yet, but what she likes about Be Real, my daughter who uses it, um, you don't have much time. You've got a limited amount of time where you're supposed to take a selfie, and what she likes about that is it's more real. Hence the name Be Real. You don't have time to do all the photoshopping and editing and post edit and all that stuff. So I do kind of like that. 81% of people report that social media increases accountability for businesses, which I think is pretty obvious, right? So I'm a fan. Now this one, this I'm going to share this link. I don't do this a lot, but I'm going to share this link. So hang on a second. Learn everything you want to know about demo. Hang on. Sorry. I can't talk and type something different at the same time. Social media, demographics. because I'm going to go a little bit fast and you might want to go a little slower through this. So I'm sharing this on YouTube and on LinkedIn. If you're watching on Facebook, just hop over to one of my other channels and come get this. But this is really, to me, where the money is. Now, I want you to note this is data from 2022. So this is a little bit old, but it's so comprehensive that I thought it was really valuable. So again, I'm going to see if I can increase the size of this just a little bit. Let's just make it bigger. Okay, there we go. All right. So at the time they did this, now remember, this is last year's. This is not incorrect. This was last year's data. So this is correct. 2.93 billion active monthly users. It's now 3.03 billion. So it's a huge milestone that they accomplished in this last year. But look at that. It's almost 2 billion of the 3 billion are on it every day. This is why when people tell me they ignore Facebook for business, I'm like, man, I know you don't get the organic reach that you used to get. I totally understand that. But what is an extra 200 to 1,000 to 5,000 or 10,000 views every single day by 2/3 of the population on the platform? And look at the people. Remember I said that it's not just for the old people? The largest percentage of people using Facebook, and this is probably going to seem like the opposite of what you believe is true, but 86% of people using Facebook are 18 to 29. So if you're going after college age kids and young adults in your business and you're not using Facebook, this is why I think a lot of people have Facebook in their mind incorrect and have ignored it for business. And it's a huge, in my opinion, it's a huge mistake. 77% of the folks are in my demographic, 30 to 49, right? I think most people understand that. Okay. This is a little surprising. 50% of are almost senior saints, not quite senior saints, but they're getting there. They're more experienced, right? They have wisdom or hoary heads, right? Okay, 51% of people 50 to 65 are using Facebook. So again, if you're targeting, adults, Facebook is a great platform. Okay. 34% of people 65 and older use Facebook. Now, again, remember that only 50% of people in this demographic are using social media at all. So if you're trying to find people that are elderly, and you're not using Facebook, the only other one I really suggest is YouTube. Income demographics, I'm going to skip this for now. If somebody has a specific question about income, then I'll come back to it. Okay. Or just click on the link and view it yourself. Gender split is about equal. There's no reason to go Facebook because you're just targeting women or just targeting men. It's an even split. This is something good to know. The average user spends about 30 minutes per day on the platform. And look at that. 96% of people are using their mobile device. Again, if you're not mobile friendly, you really need to become mobile friendly. Instagram is my favorite platform. This says 1 billion monthly active users. Again, this is old, but this was correct. It's now double. They grew by 1 billion additional monthly active users in 1 year. That is insane. And what's more insane is that is not even the number one growth, as you're about to see. YouTube grew by 1.5 billion monthly active users in 1 year. But like I said, YouTube, I believe, all it has to do is grow half as fast as it did this last year, this next year, and it'll overcome Facebook by July. That's my math. My forecast is by July. All right. So Instagram, over half the people. So I'm going to assume that this number now is 1 billion because it was 500 million and it doubled. So let's just say it doubled. But even if it didn't, that's 500 million active daily users. I can tell you I'm on Instagram probably 5 or 6 times a day. Personally, now I'm in the digital media space, so I'm not your average user, but there you go. All right. Now look at these numbers. Again, if you're going after Instagram or you're going after young kids, Facebook has more than Instagram, but Instagram has a lot. 47%, roughly half, in my age bracket, 30 to 49. If you're going after the older population, Instagram's probably not the place for you. And if you look at the demographics of the income, you can check that out yourself. Again, gender, no reason to target Instagram for men or for women alone. You've got 30 minutes, same as Facebook. They're using now. Also, I didn't point this out, but Meta owns both Facebook and Instagram, so good for them. They they have plenty of income coming in from ads and everything else because they've got 5 billion monthly active users between the two platforms. It's just insane. 71% of US businesses have an Instagram account, no doubt about it. 83% of people on Instagram say they have discovered a new product or service on Instagram. So again, if you think that Instagram is not a place for business, you just probably need to rethink your logic on it. All right. Pinterest was number 6 on the overall list. I like Pinterest. So in 2022, they had 433. Now they're at, they didn't actually grow by that much. Pinterest of the list, I could see it falling off eventually if LinkedIn learns how to grow, right? LinkedIn hasn't grown very fast either, but LinkedIn actually, no, no, there are some numbers that show LinkedIn actually reduced its overall membership. Now, that was self inflicted. LinkedIn went and cleaned up, which I give them credit for doing. They went and cleaned up a lot of what they considered stale or stagnant accounts. They weren't using them, so they cleaned it up. I lost in one day 21,000 followers. It knocked me back down. I was at 204,000 followers, and then the next day I was down to 183. And I've climbed back up to 184.5, but I'm still nowhere near where I was. But so I'll give LinkedIn some credit. But Instagram only added about somewhere between 40 and 50 million users in 2023 or over the last year. But here's something interesting. Okay. Pinterest is not very much for the younger generation. But if you're looking for 50 to 65, or let's say 35 to 65, if that's your target, that's over 60, that's 62% of the general population in that demographic. So here's one where if you're not looking for the kids, but you're looking for the more experienced of our population, Pinterest is definitely a good one. And I love Pinterest because of the SEO value. When you pin it, it pins the location of the website that it came from. And so that creates a follow link that you can click on. And in full disclosure, I use a Chrome extension to do that. I'm actually going to show you how to do that in just a minute. Here's another important note. Pinterest is primarily, as you can see, it's 7 out of 10 are female. So if you're trying to target older women on social media, Pinterest is the best. There is no better place than Pinterest for that. Why? Because people share recipes and things like that. That's what it is. 90% of weekly pins used by Pinterest to make purchase decisions. This is huge again for business. If you're in business and you're targeting older female demographics, if you're not on Pinterest, you're missing out. But the good news is you have an opportunity there to make some giant strides. Now, Twitter in 2022 had 436 million. They're at 700 million now. So they almost doubled, right? They gained over 50% anyways. That's pretty good. Age-wise, nothing too much to note here. This is what I will say about X, because that's what it's called now. X is primarily for tech related and finance related and sports. Something about those 3 categories do really well with the X group. The people who use X are pretty much fast thinkers and they digest things fast and they're not really looking for a lot of detail. They're looking for headlines. So it's almost like a news alternative, but the speed of Twitter or X is really fast. In fact, they say the shelf life of a tweet is only, and that's what they call a post, a tweet, is only about 7 minutes. So if Twitter is a campaign that you're working on, there needs to be a lot of tweets to make it effective. That's just what I find. And look at this. If Pinterest is for women, Twitter is for men. It's almost the exact inverse of the Pinterest. So again, if you're looking for younger adults to middle-aged male adults, Twitter is a good place to go. They stay on Twitter for about 35 minutes. It's a little bit more than Facebook. I should have showed you Pinterest. I'm going to scroll back up to Pinterest. It's only about 15 minutes a day on Pinterest. Okay. So the ladies are busy doing other things, but they check their pins real fast and they get back off. Now, this is the one that most of you want to look at, but let's look at this in some detail. This is saying that 89.7 monthly active users, 30 million daily active users. It's not a lot, especially I want you to consider again that just under 30% of these users are from the United States. So if you're trying to get people from America, there's only 30 million total people viewing it every day, and 30% of those are the ones that are from the United States. It's just not a great platform for huge reach. It's more targeted reach for sure, but it's not volume per se. So it's more like sniper than shotgun approach, if you will. All right. The ages of people. This is going to shock a lot of folks. And I want to talk about this group right here for a variety of reasons. Not a ton of younger people. This is your college age. A lot of people in college, for whatever reason, are not understanding the benefit of being on LinkedIn yet. They think about finding the job after they get the degree, I guess. I think that's a huge mistake. But then look at this. The lion's share of people on LinkedIn are 25 to 34. Now, I want to ask you a question. In fact, I'm going to make my screen big because there are so many people out there that are using LinkedIn incorrectly. And a lot of it has to do with the target that they're going after. Here's what I mean. You're going after the president of a company. You're going after the CEO of a company. You're going after, people, VP, let's say the C-suite. Okay. I want you to really consider how old are those people? By and large, I'm not saying that there are some that aren't, 35, 24. Certainly there are. But the overwhelming majority of C-suite folks are at that 50 and up level, right? 45 and up level, let's say. Now let's go back to this demographic and really look at it. Okay. What does this say? 60% of the people are 25 to 34. 17% are 35 to 54, and only 3% are over 55. So if your goal is to target C-suite, presidents, CFOs, COOs, CHROs, CMOs, are they really on LinkedIn? 3%. Now, this gets interesting too, okay? Because the type of person that you're going after is probably younger if you're using it correctly, and what I would consider a white collar worker, okay? And here's why. If you start looking at these, only 27% under 30,000, 3.8% in between 30 and 60, 40% 40 to 70, and it goes up 50%, 60% of households with annual income of $100,000 or more. So you do have more of the white collar type workers. But again, I want you to consider a lot of this. Their age, they're young. They're young. So are they the target for you? These are probably lower level managers and people who are like rock stars in their particular niche, but they're not typically going to be the business owner. They're not typically going to be in the C-suite. So if you're going after quote unquote decision makers and you're only using LinkedIn, this is again why you're having some trouble. All right. Now I've belabored this point enough, I believe. Any further questions, feel free to ask them in the chat and I'll be happy, or in the comments, I'll be happy to answer your questions. All right. Gender is a little bit more male than female, but again, I don't think there's enough reason to go just after the male persuasion on LinkedIn. Average time, look at this. This is eye-opening, shocking. This is by far the lowest. People spend twice as much time on Pinterest as they do on LinkedIn. So again, if you're going after the presidents of companies and making 17 posts a day and 1,800 comments a day on LinkedIn, man, you're just fishing in the wrong ocean. You're just not in the right spot. That's why I focus so much on Google and I don't spend nearly as much time on LinkedIn as I used to. All right. YouTube demographics. Now, this is hugely different than LinkedIn. This is by all stretch. This is the exact opposite of LinkedIn, and everybody should have LinkedIn account. Everybody should be putting up videos on YouTube. And if you're not, and you're in business, you're making a mistake. Now I'm going to prove why. All right. YouTube has 2.6 billion monthly active users. This number is a little bit higher than what I'm going with. I'm going with 2.5, but I'm not going to split hairs here. It's a lot of people. Look at this. Now, this is not correct. It says 1.22 billion. I'm sorry. It says 122 billion daily active users. That's obviously incorrect. That would be more people than on the planet. But it should, they missed a decimal point. We'll give them, look, I have dyslexia. I make all kinds of typos. I get a text a day from somebody, hey, Ira, you got a typo here or there. Thank you very much for doing that. I make mistakes, but I just want to point that out because that's a huge difference. Obviously, 1.22 billion versus 2.6, but it's over a billion daily active users. It's 2.6 monthly active users, right? But look at this, 81%. 15 to 25 are using YouTube. 71%, 26 to 35. Even the old people, right? They don't use anything else. Remember I said you should be on YouTube if you're targeting the older folks? This is why. Because 58%, you will not find another one that's higher. This is the king. This is why YouTube is going to dominate and be the number one by July of next year. That's my forecast. Okay. But also you can look at the percentage of income. They reach everybody, male, female, doesn't matter. They spend 45 minutes a day on YouTube every single day. It's a lot. It's not the most, but it's a lot. Now, again, they're mobile devices. All these, they're mobile devices. All right. So if you're trying to reach the most people anywhere on the planet, YouTube is the place to do it because everybody's there. Old, young, rich, poor, white collar, blue collar, educated, not educated, every language. It's YouTube, guys. It's YouTube. All right. Snapchat, I'm going to skip because I don't consider Snapchat. Again, it's a messenger app. All right. TikTok. Now, TikTok is very impressive, and I'm going to show you the most impressive thing about it in a minute. Okay, so they have 1.2 billion. Again, I don't necessarily agree with all these numbers, but anyways, a billion, 1.2 billion, even if you called it 1.1, split the difference with me, that's still quite a few. 50 million daily active users. I actually think that number is low. I think that number is higher. I don't agree, but it's still a lot of people. Look at the demographics here. This is interesting. If you're targeting the kids, for sure, TikTok, I think most people know that. Go to TikTok, that's the place. But it's not just kids. Look at this. You've got 25% in that LinkedIn demographic. Now, LinkedIn, this age group, this bracket, this demographic in LinkedIn was 60%. So LinkedIn's still more effective than TikTok. But I've heard a lot of people say that TikTok's not for business at all, and it's not right. There are a lot of people on TikTok that are in business, right? If you add these two groups, so add a high school through mid-level career, right? Again, probably not your large earners, which I'll show you in a minute, but definitely a large swath of the population, especially if you're segmenting for the younger business to consumer, perhaps this is a perfect demographic for you or a different platform for you to go after that demographic. So here's what's interesting about TikTok. You would think with this demographic that they wouldn't have a lot of money. But look here, and this kind of contradicts itself in a sense, but it's saying 40.2% of TikTok users have an annual household income of 100,000 plus. Now, here's the caveat to that. My kids all use TikTok and they qualify for this because of me, not because of them. Right. So you got to take this demographic with a little bit. You have to kind of be able to read between the lines here. All right. But here's the most impressive part of TikTok. Again, gender split, a little bit more female than male, but not enough to worry about. But this is the thing. 95 minutes per day they're spending on TikTok, and they open it on average 8 times per day. People are spending a lot of time on TikTok. They check it regularly. It's kind of like every time they grab their phone, they're going to TikTok. So, should you be on TikTok if you're a business? Well, clearly, if you're going after the younger demographic, and I would say if you are business to consumer direct, I would clearly recommend it as long as you don't have specialty products that are for the senior saints. Okay. Senior saints, again, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, but I would stay off of TikTok if it was, for older. All right. That's all they have on there. But man, that's a really good website. I spent a lot of time on it. Here's another one I'm going to spend some time on. And some of this data contradicts what we just saw, but this is from Hootsuite, which they have a lot of backend access because people use Hootsuite for a variety of reasons. So here's some interesting things. Now, again, the other website said 4.9. This is saying 4.89. I'm not going to get upset over one tenth of a tenth of a percent here, right? But look at this, 2 hours and 26 minutes of total use on social media per day. That is the global consumption rate. That is just a lot. I'm going to scroll down here because some of this stuff I don't find interesting. This is growth of social media just overall. And you can see it looks flat here. But again, it's not flat when you look at the individual platforms' performances and how they've gone up. It's just a total number of people haven't gone up. What has gone up is the number of platforms they're using. It used to be that people were on 1 or 2, now they're on 6 or 7. And so that's why these numbers continue to grow, even though the overall numbers haven't gone up. But like I said, with a concentration of technology advancement in third world countries and giving those new folks access to social media and to the internet, I expect these numbers to start climbing rapidly over the next 5 years. And again, if you're late to the party and you don't understand why that is, I didn't even say this earlier. The reason why I believe that they're doing it is because of commerce, right? The global economy is online. And so by having large, over a billion people on the planet still don't have access to the internet, and those are potential consumers, right? So get them online so that they can spend money. It's not necessarily a noble goal, but the commerce rules the world, right? When things are good for commerce, typically it happens. When things is bad for commerce, it typically doesn't happen, right? It's not always true because elections have serious consequences, but I won't get into politics here. All right. Let's see. I'm just looking to see for some interesting data here. Here we go. Facebook has over, let me make this bigger too. Hang on a second. Okay. Facebook has over 3 billion monthly active users. We talked about that. People on Facebook are very loyal to Facebook. They go back there religiously. Like my wife, myself now too. I had actually gotten away from Facebook. I use Facebook every day now too, primarily for business reasons. That's why I'm on it. My wife loves Facebook. That's her number one social media platform. Like I said, mine's Instagram. Everybody's got their favorite. But Facebook users spend an average of 3.8 hours per week on the app. It's a ton. 24% are 45 and older. Again, if you're trying to reach the older demographic, it's Facebook, it's Pinterest, and it is YouTube. All right. Again, it's for older and younger folks. There is no only this part of the population uses Facebook. Everybody uses it. The only one better is YouTube again. This is saying only 32% of American teenagers use Facebook, but look at that. That's more than the people that are my age or older. Okay. So again, depending on how you read that number, you can use stats any way you want sometimes, right? But 73% of Americans aged 35 to 54 are on Facebook. So again, if you're going after older folks, more experienced folks, Facebook is definitely a place to be. All right. Let's keep going. Yeah, it's important to know other countries actually use more the social media platforms that we know and love here in America more than we do. There's just more people. There's India has more people on the planet than any other country now. It surpassed China. So it doesn't surprise me that Facebook would have more Facebook users, or India would have more Facebook users. It probably has more users on all the platforms, frankly. But here are, after India, the countries with the most users. The USA has 175 million monthly active users. Indonesia, 120 million. Brazil at 109 million. I would not have guessed Brazil, but there it is. All right. 73% of college graduates use Facebook. Again, if you're trying to get business owners, the older users are not on LinkedIn. They're on Facebook. They're on YouTube. They're on Pinterest. So use those. But if you're looking for business owners, certainly a lot of people who graduate from college do own businesses, myself being one of them, right? I use Facebook every day. Facebook is the number one social platform to keep date with news, current. Well, again, that depends on who you're talking to specifically. Younger men, I would say, use Twitter or X more than Facebook, but the overall population, probably that is true. All right, let's go. Here's Instagram demographics. 2 billion monthly active users we talked about. The most used social media network by social media users, 12 to 34. This is true. But if you change that from 18 and up, it changes to YouTube. So again, it just depends on who you're going after. That's interesting, right? So 69.1%, 70% of global Instagram users are under 35. And I've already told you that Instagram is more for younger folks than it is for older folks. There's no doubt about that. Okay. 62% of teens in the US use Instagram. India, again, number one by population of monthly active users. That's pretty much true on all of them, except for TikTok, which they don't have any access to it, right? It's China-based company. India and China do not get along. Here we go. Here's X, formerly Twitter. This is saying 541 million monthly active users. In my video, I showed 500. Again, I saw data kind of all over the board. So that is what it is. But that's monthly active users. It's quite a few. It went down. Interesting to note. It went down, as some of you might remember. Elon Musk bought X last year, and some people didn't like that. So there you go. The average user spends 5 hours a month on Twitter. It's a lot. 62.3% of US Twitter users identify as male. Again, if you're going after the younger male population, Twitter or X is the place. 23% of US teens still use X. Interesting combo here. But you have 88% of X users also use Instagram. This is one thing I think LinkedIn did right. They tied my Twitter account to my LinkedIn account. So when I make a post on LinkedIn, it also tweets, which is smart. And I think a lot of websites do that. I know my Instagram does that for my Facebook account, for example. 60% of US adults who have used X in the last year have taken a break of several weeks or more from the platform because it's so high paced. X is hard because it's fast, right? And so if you're not up on that, then that's a problem. There are more than 950 million LinkedIn members worldwide, but a lot of them don't use it. That's the key there. They have accounts, but they're never there. 310 million monthly active users. So a large part, 2/3 of the population of LinkedIn don't use it every month. Okay. And so your CEOs have an account that they may or may not have created because an administrator might have made it for them because they needed one for their website, but then they never use it, right? And that's the problem. 61 million people use LinkedIn each week to search for jobs. I don't think that surprises anybody. 63 million companies are listed on LinkedIn. That surprises me because you would think every company would want to be listed on LinkedIn, but maybe they're, for whatever reason, not. Roughly even on male to female. 60% of LinkedIn users are 25 to 34. I'm going to keep saying that till I'm blue in the face because it is extremely important for you to know that if your target is older and owning businesses, you're likely in the wrong platform, even though you think you're in the exact right platform. So there you go. In the USA, 26% of American internet users age 12 plus use LinkedIn. That's 26%. 35% of Americans 35 to 54 use LinkedIn. Look at that. That's only 35%. You can get 80% of those people on YouTube. Just saying. Okay. In the US has 206 million users. It says it's the largest. Where do we got India there? That's 110 million, right? So they're double the number in the US right now. That's kind of cool. 75% of LinkedIn audience is located outside of the United States. So this is saying 25% of everybody is outside of the United States. Again, if you're going after older business owners in the United States and you're focusing solely on LinkedIn, I hope I've conveyed this enough today. You're probably in the wrong spot. All right. 80% of marketers, business to business marketers, are using LinkedIn, which makes me wonder why. You know what I mean? Like, look, man, if you're getting advice from your digital marketing company saying you should just focus only on LinkedIn and you're going after your C suite in the United States, you should call me because they don't know what they're doing. And no offense, but it's just math, right? I didn't make this data. This is the data. All right. TikTok has 834 million global monthly users. I actually think that number is 1.2 billion, but we'll go with this data since it's in front of us. TikTok, let's see. It's just growing. It's growing so fast. TikTok will have 33.3 million users in 2023. That's buyers, not users. That's people making purchases. It has surpassed Pinterest on this front for the first time in 2022. The average US adult TikTok user spends roughly 55.8 minutes per day. That's an hour per day. 17% of American men use TikTok, 24% of American women. In the USA, 67% of Americans 18 to 19. So your 18 to 19-year-olds use it a lot. Okay. 56% of 20 to 29-year-olds use it. Again, it's for the younger generation. There's no doubt about it. Of Americans aged 60 to 64, 16% use the platform. It's not very much. It's actually higher than I would have thought it would be. But again, and these numbers are what they are. So we have to take them with a grain of salt because I don't know that these are extremely accurate, but this is what we've got here. Here's YouTube. YouTube, 2.5 billion. We've already talked about that. They spend an average of 5 hours per week on the app. It's a lot. More than 500 hours of content are uploaded to YouTube every single minute. It is growing leaps and bounds. 45.6% of users are female, 54% are male. It's a pretty equal split there. 95% of US teenagers use YouTube. 19% say they use it almost constantly. There is no demographic that even comes close to the daily usage of YouTube. This is actually showing me Facebook, it looks like. Oh, no. No, this is YouTube. Okay, right. So 19% of people are using it almost constantly. These are for teens now. Several times a day, 41%. 17% saying they use it about once a day. Several times a week, often don't use it. Only 5% of teens do not use YouTube. Again, if you're trying to grow, you have an emerging market, or you're trying to reach adults, or you're trying to reach kids, Trying to reach men, women, old, young, educated, not educated. Again, it's YouTube. YouTube should, when in doubt, go to YouTube and use YouTube, because that's where the majority of people are, and they're more and more and more all the time. All right, 2 billion logged into YouTube users watch shorts every month. 150 million people in the US watch YouTube, connected TV screens. 63% of business to business marketers use YouTube in the last year. These guys know what they're doing. Use one of them. Tons of stuff, just tons. Pinterest is primarily women. We've talked about that. 12 and up, 31%, but the majority of these people are older. 37%, 34% are 35 to 54, 21% are 55 and up. Again, if you're trying to reach older folks, it's YouTube, it's Pinterest, it's Facebook. Okay, and pretty much in that order. The United States is pretty much the only people using Pinterest are primarily from the United States. Brazil comes in at number 2. Mexico comes in at number 3. Is India even on this list? They are not. They may not even have access to it, frankly. And I think that's the only ones I wanted to show you here. I'm not interested in Snapchat. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So I've gone over a lot of social media demographics, but I would like to share this with you. This is so interesting to me. Look at the age of use. I need to move this just a little bit. But the age of use. So this is 18 to 29. That's this. You've got 84% of people 18 to 29. These are adults 18 to 29. 85% of them are using social media every month. Your 30 to 49-year-olds, so the next generation, the next demographic bucket here is 81%. And then 50 to 64 is 73%. So 7 out of 10 people 50 to 64 are using social media every month. And even your senior saints, your most senior saints, they didn't grow up with cell phones or internet or cable TV or any of that stuff, but they've adopted the adaptability. Quite impressive. 45%. So the odds are every other person that you meet, that's 65 or older, has social media and is using it. So that's pretty impressive. Right here, this is hard to tell, but that is YouTube, right? YouTube is the most used. Platforms that are most popular, YouTube is running away with it. It's growing by leaps and bounds. See, Facebook has pretty much stayed flat. It grew a little bit from 2.9 billion monthly active users to 3.03. That's flat growth. It did grow up a little bit, so it's not a loss. That would have made headlines for sure. Rumors of Facebook's demise are greatly exaggerated. It is not going anywhere. It's 3 billion monthly active users. It's not in any jeopardy of dying. It's just stagnant growth. Where YouTube's growth, YouTube in 2022, the official number I had researched, I had it at 1 billion monthly active users. In 2023, it's now 2.5. So it's gone up 150%. It went from 1 billion monthly active users to 2.5 billion monthly active users. Nothing else comes close. Instagram was the next most impressive. It doubled. It had 100% growth from 1 billion to 2 billion. Okay. So Instagram and YouTube are definitely the two that have the most momentum. Okay. This is pretty good. This is another one that I'll probably end up sharing on my website. But if you look at this, this is just a total percent of the population. This is everybody globally. So you've got total 69% of the population using social media is using Facebook versus 40% of Instagram and only 28% of LinkedIn. Again, this shouldn't surprise anybody by now. I just noticed this is a little bit small. Let me make this bigger so I can read it better. Okay. So there we go. But then again, look at these ages. 18 to 29 is 30%. You're 65 and older on LinkedIn. This is only 11%. But look at this on Facebook. 50% of your 5 and older percent of the population is using Facebook. This is why Facebook is better, in my estimation, for a lot of reasons for business than LinkedIn. 73% of your CEOs, of your VPs, of your presidents, of your C suite. This is where most of them are age wise. And this is where most of them are Facebook. Again, this is your Facebook. This is your LinkedIn. Okay. You start looking at money, less than 30K, 70%, 30 to 50K, 76%, right? Like no matter where they are income wise, they're pretty much on Facebook. LinkedIn, as I already pointed out, is primarily for people who are generating more money, which you think equates to upper level management, but it doesn't. I'm talking about high end performers and low end managers. That's who's primarily using LinkedIn on an everyday basis, okay, or at least a monthly basis. High school or less, only 10% on LinkedIn. Some college, 28%. Again, college degree or higher, 51%. But look at Facebook. It goes across the board. High school, college graduate. Doesn't matter if they're rural or urban on Facebook. It does make a difference on LinkedIn. The more rural they are, the less likely they are to be there. Now I'm going to give you the same numbers for YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. I'm going to ignore WhatsApp and Reddit. Okay, 81% of the population is using um, YouTube. It's a huge percentage. 82% are men, 80% are women, makes no difference. Look at the ages. 95%, again, of 18 to 29% people are using YouTube. Now, these are their numbers, which were a little bit different than the numbers we saw earlier, but still very impressive. Only 5% of people 18 to 29 are not using YouTube. Only 9% of people my age, 30 to 49, are not using it. Even people a little bit older than me in that next category, 17% are not using it. Most people are using it. Even the 65 and older, half of them are using YouTube. Again, if you're not using YouTube, you're making a mistake. It hits all demographics for race, for income, for education. I don't care if they live in the city or they live in the country. Wherever they are, they're using YouTube. That's why I say YouTube should be your number one platform. All right. TikTok. Again, this is primarily your younger crowd. Okay. TikTok, 21% total. This number will continue to climb, but your male to female ratio, it's a little bit more women, but not enough to make a significant impact. But here's where your money is made. It's with the kids, and they don't even show you the younger kids, but the younger kids use it even more. So if you're going after the younger demographic, that's really where to go. There is a considerable spike between the African American and Hispanic communities over the white communities. Make of that what you will. I think TikTok, if you're going to use it for business, if you're doing anything urban, if you're doing anything that's for the younger generation, especially business to consumer type of a sales product, TikTok is the place to be. Um, it's what I would expect. It crosses all generations. But look, again, the urban areas do perform a little bit better than the rural. Not enough, again, probably to only go after that, but there it is. Twitter or X, 23% of the population, men to women, about the same ages. You've got pretty much the younger to middle age crowd. Again, these are people who are going to be into like finance stuff, NFTs, cryptocurrencies, sports, and high tech, right? So, software coders, developers, all those folks, that's what you're going to find primarily on Twitter or X. Income doesn't seem to matter too much. Education level, the more educated, the more likely they are to be on there. More urban than rural makes sense for those industries that I've highlighted. Okay. So I've thrown so much data at you guys. I don't even know if I've got anybody still watching. It shows that I do. I was going to go into how to make posts and some strategies for the show, but I'm looking at the clock and I'm already 20 minutes over. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the pause button on this show and continue this conversation next week. I'll recap a little bit, But then next week, come back for Marketing Mondays next week, and I'll give you tips how to make YouTube content, Instagram content, LinkedIn content, Facebook content, Twitter content, TikTok content. Like I'll cover the bases, Pinterest, even how to do it. We'll talk about something called content curation, which is where you make one piece of content for one specific platform, but then you use it. You sometimes have to adjust it, but then you can use it for multiple other platforms. It's very common. In fact, like I said, Instagram ties into Facebook. So when I post on Instagram, it automatically will post for me on Facebook. When I do that on LinkedIn, it automatically makes a post for me over on X. And so you can do these things. I'm going to share strategies on how to create the content, how to manage the content, that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that all next week. I'm sure some of you are going to want to talk about products that will, content calendars that'll post for you. I, in full disclosure, don't use those. So I'm probably not the best person to ask. There are reasons in the terms and conditions of several of these platforms that don't allow it. So I don't do it because I don't want to jeopardize my standing on any of these accounts. So if you've ever been in trouble on social media and you never thought about that, that could be the reason why you're in trouble. But anyways, I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any follow-up questions, go ahead and put them in the comments still, because I'm going to monitor these comments a little bit more than I normally would, because we're going to continue this conversation next week. In the meantime, I hope you have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for sticking around and engaging with me, Rick and Kenny and Brady, in the comments. Really appreciate it. Hope you all have a wonderful week. Bye-bye for now. See y'all later.